Five Nights at Freddy's the movie had the special and almost insurmountable task of paying off a 9-year wait and also encapsulating the entire franchise into only 2 hours of screen time. There are infinite ways that you can experience and interpret games, but only one way to watch a movie from beginning to end. The term that first came to my mind is different when I describe or think about this movie. That seems to be the way to properly label the experience. With that being said, there are so many new elements that it's easy to enjoy without being nostalgia blind. That's why I liked it and consider it a kind of triumph. I've had a night or so to collect my thoughts on the movie, and I'm at the point where I think I can say my overall opinion. The FNAF movie isn't crushed under the weight of the immense lore established in the games. It doesn't try to throw so much into the movie from so many different games that it becomes incomprehensible. Anybody with the worry that the film will be too packed can cast that worry aside immediately. Generally speaking, this movie does more right than it does wrong. This movie is a square one. Its story is entirely, completely new, with the exception of some very bare basics that every viewer can appreciate. As the start of the movie canon, the film weighs heavily into narrative and story. This isn't at the expense of action usually. Instead, it follows the unfortunate Blumhouse rhetoric of having a weak second act. For example, to develop particular characters more, some characters only appear at the very start and the very end of the film. It makes it seem like elements and expansion are missing. What this boils down to is a certain degree of suspending disbelief, which is obviously unsurprising considering the source material. A question which has overshadowed both the FNAF games and the books so far has been whether or not FNAF takes itself seriously as a horror franchise. There are some absolutely horrifying, gruesome elements present since 2014, but its core audience is young, and the movie respects the age rating it's been given. There are many off-screen deaths, like a hand slamming on a door and leaving a bloody handprint. It's disappointing at times, but Emma Tammy, the director, is inventive in how horror's been optimised to unnerve us without showing too much. The end result is either a hard-hitting scene, or a little too cheesy and generic to leave a lasting impact. Moments we see off camera give the gore we see on screen a much larger punch, however uncommon that is. The movie really did need to be up to 18 to flourish. None of the signature jump scares unfortunately got to me. They're cheap and none of them are from the actual animatronic characters themselves. I'll tell you what though, I cannot complain about the acting at all. The cast and crew are all absolutely great considering the roles they're playing are so different to what they've done in the past. Particularly shining off the top of my head are Matthew Lillard, Josh Hutcherson as the lead, and the puppeteers and actors who give the animatronics life and character. Ugh. No movie that's willing to do so much differently and depart so much from the games and books by so much can be considered a cash grab. Anybody worried that this movie was just made for the sake of existing can certainly put those worries to rest. The movie revolves around Josh Hutcherson having a dead brother and he gets a job, a night shift, where William Afton kills people. Josh Hutcherson, down on his luck, has a dead brother and applies for a job as a night guard at an abandoned Freddy's Pizza place that the owner can't let go of. It turns out that the pizzeria is a trap. There are haunted animatronics there, and William Afton hangs out in his spring bonnie suit sometimes and kills people that get a job there. Yep. You see what I mean? It's relatively recognisable as Five Nights at Freddy's, but in terms of having a Five Nights structure in the way that the games do, there is none. Josh Hutcherson does play the night guard, and his brother died. In the beginning he doesn't know how he died. It turns out obviously William Afton killed him. So let's talk a little more about that. Josh Hutcherson's brother is called Garrett. Now I thought through the entire movie that they were setting up Garrett to become Shadow Freddy. It's made clear that William Afton killed Garrett, but he isn't one of the 5 missing children, so they can't possess Freddy, Foxy, Bonnie, Chica or Golden Freddy. A lost soul in need of redemption with a close connection to the main character meant Shadow Freddy would have been perfect. But what do they do instead? Absolutely nothing. The missing children just know about Garrett somehow, and don't help in finding him. This isn't expanded on, and it really does bring up the question of how much redemption is actually given by the time the credits roll. Fans who stuck with the movie's development since Blumhouse picked it up may remember the name Mary Stuart Masterson. She was one of the first cast members to be announced for this current iteration of the movie, and was named simply as female villain. She didn't appear in any of the trailers, generating a decent amount of mystery. In the end, she appears in a handful of scenes as the aunt character, who is literally killed by Golden Freddy over nothing at all. Her death was made without any possibility of consequence, and her character comes and goes with no bearing on the story other than Josh being able to keep his younger sister at the end of the film. Nobody comments on her death, there's no funeral. The role of aunt had to be filled for narrative reasons, of course, but the way that she was killed off is one of the most common complaints I see at the moment. But a character that I believe the movie treats worse is unfortunately Matthew Lillard as William Afton / Purple Guy. Although the acting is impeccable, the actual role of the killer in the movie is half-baked, and that's a phrase I hope to avoid through the entire movie. They appear in Act 1, and then right at the end of the movie. When Spring Bonnie appeared, because they're not Springtrap yet, I was surprised. I was like, this early? Spring Bonnie's going to appear this early? And, you know, I get that it was a surprise reveal to anyone that's new to the franchise, that yes, Spring Bonnie is William Afton, but there were no other characters in the cast of the movie that it could have been. The twist of Vanessa being the daughter of William Afton is so welcome, and the Springlock scene, which we did get, is done pretty bloody well, but Matthew Lillard disappears for a good hour or more, and they appear on screen maybe a total of 10 minutes. It was established in the opening scene that the animatronics themselves kill the previous employees, although there's zero reason for them to hate security guards at all. Think about it, in the very first scene Foxy kills a security guard. What did he do? Is it because he's an adult? I don't really get it. They didn't go after Josh Hutcherson's character with that kind of vengeance. So why was Afton already there? I don't know, it's given no expansion. There's something missing there. Even if Afton knew Mike was there that night, why wear the suit? And if he's going to wear a suit, why the hell continue to wear the finicky Springlock suit when we know that the locks are temperamental and prone to snap and kill? I know that a lot of people in the lead up to this wanted to see Matthew Lillard in a purple suit, i.e. Purple Guy. This would have been a great time to do it. Now, I get that like the showmanship of him and like the spectacle of him being in Spring Bonnie, it makes sense. And it's a good segue into Spring Bonnie. But it would have made sense if he just had a suit or something. At the end of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 the game, Afton hurriedly puts on the suit and the moisture from the rain causes the Springlocks to kill him. In the movie he's already got the suits on and the locks just seem to kill him after a certain point of time because the movie needed Afton to die. Even with this in mind, the Springlock scene was the most thrilling scene to experience in the cinema. Not only in the movie, although it obviously is a personal favourite, but probably like one of my favourite and just the most surreal cinematic experience that I can remember. And it's when I felt complimented as a long-time fan. Even if it does take much more from the book canon than the games, but that's something I'll get into. How much of the movie was actually inspired by the game Five Nights at Freddy's 1? So there are some parts of this movie that lead me to believe that we as viewers were misinformed about the movie while it was being made. Early on it was said that the cast, crew and production team were all made to play FNAF 1. And made themselves familiar with the subject material to make the most effective transition to the big screen. How on earth can everybody involved in the team have played Five Nights at Freddy's to any degree and not once have shown an office door closing? Doors are such a huge part of the gameplay on its own, so how the hell they managed to avoid such a pivotal part of the experience is beyond me. As well as this, the power meter from the game never appears at all. There's a passing comment about the power being a bit weird in the building, and that would mean like anything if it actually ever ran out or was presented to be an obstacle like it is in the game, but it isn't. Too many pivotal elements of the first game are missing. Doors and power. The two things you have to worry about in the first game, and neither of them are present in the movie. As well as this, the "It's me" Easter egg makes one appearance in the office and never again. Could this be Garrett communicating with Mike? We have no idea. We needed more quick hallucinations, not the drawn out forest sequences, just like flashy scenes and more "it's me" messages like in the game. Simply put, there are many elements from the game that the movie decides to totally abandon, unaware that the quick hallucinations, doors and power are part of the appeal of FNAF, and avoiding them isn't doing the movie any favours. The pacing. Now I've touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to go into it in sort of full detail now. It's mostly fine, but the pacing does not get a free pass. On the second night, the animatronics are friendly and building a literal chair fort with its main characters. Now the chair fort scene is getting dunked on by pretty much everyone. I'm not going to join that sort of horde. I think everything has been said. Essentially, the animatronics befriend Abby, who is the younger sister of Josh Hutcherson's character. And, you know, the animatronics are possessed by children. They are kids. I just don't think a lot of people expected the animatronics to be interpreted this way, where they become incredibly friendly to children, and they're won over with Josh very quickly because of Abby, and they build a chair fort. It's strange. The characters needed more time in the oven as threats, I think. It's established that the animatronics protect children and generally hate adults through the break-in scene, but any and all aggression and horror that was present is butchered and reduced after the bloody chair fort scene way too soon. Another point on the pacing is that the fourth night is literally one of Mike's forest hallucination scenes, and then that's it. Cut to the next day after that brief hallucination sequence. We don't see the rest of the night, so even though Freddy and the rest of the people were in the pizzeria, we're just made to assume that nothing happened. Anything that draws inspiration from the games is really great. Anything brand new, such as characters, the narrative, the backstory, etc., can be hit and miss. Anything that draws inspiration from the books, like the Silver Eye parallels during the Springlock scene, is badly done, and overall nothing is perfect. Golden Freddy. The last thing I really have off the top of my head is the characterization of Golden Freddy. This character is the most mismanaged element of the film, bar none. Golden Freddy doesn't seem to decide whether or not they want to be physical or a hallucination like in the first game. I spoke before about how the "it's me" message is a half-baked and temporary plotline, which is essentially only an Easter egg, and this movie makes it clear that that message has no connection to Golden Freddy at all, despite what you may believe. There isn't anything in particular that makes Golden Freddy special compared to the other missing children, other than they can leave the pizzeria. They simply taunt Mike about knowing who Garrett is, but don't help. It could have been any other character, and it's so unfortunate to say that. I was hoping Golden Freddy would have been treated as a little more mysterious and a bit more of a ghostly force, and the new role that they've given Golden Freddy is a little unwelcome and by all accounts a little cheesy. But in the end, like I said, you know, the expectations were way too high for this, and I believe that a sequel is already in pre-production. So it's like the way I feel at the moment is how a lot of people felt when there was only one game. FNAF 2 built on the story, it brought in a hell of a lot more fans, including me around that time. When there was only one movie, it's sort of, I don't know, difficult. It's good to have a new canon, it's good to have a Square One, and it felt very refreshing. There are moments where I felt complimented as a fan, but there are some examples that there's a real sense of misdirection here. Like, you're going to have a game based off FNAF 1, you're going to make everyone play the game, you're going to write down all of the main elements, the kitchen camera that you can't access, the doors, the power meter going down, Freddy's music box, and then you're not going to have any of them in the movie? I think there's Foxy humming and running down the hall. That was done very well. That's it. I'm not going to go properly in depth about how well made the animatronics are, everyone knows they're fantastic. The acting, like I've touched on before, is brilliant. So there is a lot to like here. I do consider it a triumph of sorts, and I am, bottom line, very excited to see where it goes. That is everything though, so yeah, no, see ya.